don't even really like accountancy, if I'm being brutally honest. Do you want me to start with that?
You just had the name Tennick Accountants. You're like, well, we've got to be an accountant now.
I was going to say, I just thought it kind of had a bit of a ring to it as much as anything else.
Hey everybody, it's John Lamberton here alongside my good friend and business partner, Mr. Jason Brockman. We are here for another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast, where as always, it is our job to help you get more customers and make more money without just working harder. So without further ado, let's dive straight into this month's episode.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast. Once again, we are joined by another 1%er. But before we bring him into the virtual room, if you like, we've got a little bit of begging to do, a little bit of a request of our audience, and it ultimately comes from me reading one of my books as usual and realizing that I'm not doing what I say I'm doing. So it's a little bit of do as I say, not as I do. So let me just read this little quote from Evergreen Assets, one of my best-selling books from 2 years ago. Reviews are a highly leveraged evergreen asset that we can all collect and improve. And the easiest way to get more reviews, ask and ye shall receive. I believe there is no such thing as too many reviews unless they're all 1 star. Don't stop collecting them until you've got at least 1,000. There you go. I wrote that. Those are my words. Me preaching to you, dear listener, saying, just keep collecting those reviews. I've got almost 2,000 reviews for my books now. Jace, how many have we got for the podcast?
Probably not that many, maybe 3.
Yeah, I would say 5 at most, I would say. Not 5,000, 5. Have we ever asked for reviews on this podcast?
You know, you sit and you listen to podcasts and you watch YouTube videos and all of that kind of stuff. And on there's great big thumbs up here on the video. And they go, please follow, like and share all our stuff. And I don't think we've ever done it on any of our podcasts.
No. So there we go. We'll right that wrong now, shall we?
Yes.
Cool. So wherever you listen, we're not precious. If you want to put it on Spotify or Audible or Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, please just do take 10 seconds. Leave us some stars, preferably more than 1. I'll tell you what I would love for you to do. If you do have maybe 45 seconds, leave us some stars, but also in the review comment area, answer the ambitious lifestyle business question. The question that Jason always ends each episode with, what does an ambitious lifestyle business look like for you? Answer that question. We would love to see that.
We absolutely would. And so shall we move on to our guest for today?
Well, I think we can. He sat there very patiently.
Oh, sorry. I'm actually just thinking, I'm going to make sure I leave a review, and it'll be a 5-star review saying this podcast that we're recording today has been the best podcast I have ever listened to.
Specifically this episode, Graham, yeah?
This one episode, yeah. I mean, I can just feel it in the blood. And for anybody that gets to the end of the podcast and doesn't think that way, name somebody else. My name's not Graham Tennick, and I'm from Sunderland.
Yeah, if you don't agree that today is the best podcast you've ever listened to, just email Graham, who'll give you a full refund of everything you've paid for today's podcast. We better introduce you, Graham. Graham is the Chief Impact Officer at Tennick Accountants, where he isn't afraid to roll up his sleeves and is on a mission to empower trades and professional services business owners who know the grind of long hours, minimal returns, and the frustration of hefty taxes. There is a better way, and Graham is going to tell us all about what that better way is today. Graham, welcome to the Ambitious Lifestyle Business Podcast.
Thank you very much for asking us to be here. Look forward to sharing a few tips, having a blast along the way, and I'm sure I'll take away a few golden nuggets as we go through the questions.
Well, let's hope so. You've not built this up in any way to be like a high-pressure situation.
No, it's literally going to be a conversation among friends. That's all it's going to be. Or that's what you promised me. I mean, I might come to the end and think, flipping hell, that wasn't what you told it was going to be. You said there was no agenda. You said it would just 1 or 2 questions. It won't be off in 5 minutes.
Right, so we've trawled through your company's house statements, and in 1973...
Not guilty, Your Honour.
I do want to go back a little bit in time, because you are obviously an accountant. I say obviously, for the listeners listening to this audio podcast, you might have missed the word accountants in the introduction, but for those on the video, there's a big sign behind Graham which says Tennick Accountants. You're probably the, I don't know, 7th or 8th accountant we've had on the show. This isn't just a podcast for accountants, and I know every accountant says this. I'm an accountant, but I'm different. But I think you are different, because I think most accountants, not just the ones we've had on this show, but most accountants are accountants first, business owners second. Having heard a little bit about your origin story, I think you are very much a business owner first and an accountant second. Is that fair?
I don't even really like accountancy, if I'm being brutally honest. Do you want me to start with that?
You just had the name Tennick Accountants. You're like, well, we've got to be an accountant now.
I was going to say, I just thought it kind of had a bit of a ring to it as much as anything else. But no, actually, my journey started with my dad. So my dad had a forklift truck business. So in the early years, when I could legally work there, I would be sweeping floors, cleaning toilets, all of the crap jobs you could ever imagine. I gradually progressed into cutting tires on forklifts, doing very small repairs on forklifts, and doing little things on the engineering side of things. But I was fortunate enough to be brought up in a business environment, but a very grounded business environment. So my dad set up the business in 1983. And from about the age of 13, 14, I was involved in the business, be it a Saturday morning, or as in the summer holidays, just to keep myself out of mischief. And that was where my passion for business started. But my passion for business was a bit of a strange one, because particularly if you go back when you're going through education, if you said, yeah, what do you want to do? I want to go into business. It doesn't really kind of narrow the opportunities down. So at that stage there, I was like, well, I want to have my own business, but I'd identified quite early doors I didn't want to go into the family business, because for me, it was a case of my dad had worked really hard doing what he was doing. I could see his passion. I could see the pleasure he got from it, but it just wasn't an area I was equally as passionate about. And also, my dad is also Graham Tennick. So I'm Graham James Tennick. Imagine the post, Graham J. Tennick. My dad is Graham John Tennick.
Okay.
Imagine the fun in our household. So all of this combined led me to the position where it was a case of, I'd love to have my own business, but I don't share the passion. I'd like my dad to have the rewards for the efforts he's put into that business, and I'd like to make my own mark in the world, but I need to decide what business that's going to be. And when I was looking at that, accountancy was where I almost stumbled into it, if I'm being brutally honest, because I thought it's a qualification which would take me into a business further on down the line, whatever that business may be. And then being honest, I do enjoy accountancy. I did enjoy accountancy, but the element of accountancy I enjoy is not the tax return, is not the accounts, is not all the compliance sort of side of things. The bit I enjoy is the bit I was exposed to in my dad's business, where be at work and environment in terms of dinners, chatting with their business owners, trying to develop, understand, and grow their businesses and improve their lives. That was what my passion was. And accountancy gave me that platform which enabled me to do that. And the side aspect of it is the compliance bit, like so many other accountancy firms. But my passion and my knowledge and my, years of wisdom? Yeah, I'll go with that. Years of wisdom come from the business experience I had several years before I even started the accountancy journey.
So you felt that journey really started like when you were 13 working on the forklifts?
Yeah, when I had the grease in the hair, the muck all over my face, but I felt as though I thought, this feels like you kind of see the opportunities out there. And you see, and again, I love the psychology and coaching side of things, of business as well. At that point there, I've always been a relatively self-aware sort of person. I am aware I'm going bald. So again, just if anybody's thinking that's a light on my head, no, I am getting a bit thin. I've always been quite a self-aware person. So it was interesting being in that working environment, not just of the engineering things I was learning, but also of the working environment. The mechanical nature with regards to how this team was structured, with regards to how work was brought in, because my dad handled the sales side, his business partner handled the repairs and rental sort of side. So by encompassing all of that, and then also with them having like corporate tickets for various sport and things, by going along there, I just went out there like a sponge to people from various different industries and ages, and I just absorbed absolutely everything I possibly could, and just thought, this is such an amazing position that we could potentially do something with. And I have to smile, actually. I've still got a little black book at home. Not the little black book people might refer to and think, oh yeah, what's in there? But it was my little black business book. So I had business ideas in there. So before I set the accountancy business, I was like, right, what could I possibly do? And some of the ideas are quite humorous. I was going to have a recruitment company. Thought, nah, don't really fancy that. The idea of replicating Jerry Maguire and being a sports agent did cross my mind, but
Show me the money, yeah? That's all you want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, it was the sports bit. Then I thought, I need to study law. I just want the sports bit. I thought, well, forget that. I then came up with a great thought, right, I'm just going to be this company that just introduced people and just like connections and things like that. And I came up with this great name. Are you ready?
Okay.
Connects with a Z.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how that idea dropped as well. So that's shuffled to one side. But yeah, it kind of, all of the previous experiences just gave us the pieces of the puzzle, which I gradually started putting together, but I didn't put them together in the right way. But I'll save that for some questions I'm sure you're going to probe out of us shortly.
I was going to ask, actually, because that's really interesting about not staying in the family business. And I understand the reason you didn't want to do that is so that you give your dad, he could keep the business and run it the way he wanted to. Do you think there would have been a time where actually you've got some better ideas or different ideas and would want to take it into a different direction as you kind of developed, and that would have created a bit of friction that actually staying out of the business is the reason why you kind of did it all? Or was it the case that actually you cut your teeth and you wanted to move on?
Possibly. I mean, I think there was a number of different dynamics going on. I mean, in the forklift truck industry, there's a lot of changes going on, which even my dad would openly say it wasn't the same industry he first went into. And the pressures and strains then were very different to what they once were. Now, also, my dad and I, personality-wise, we are extremely similar. And I mean extremely similar. So we'd never fall out, but we would have clashed. We're not very complementary. We're kind of, in theory, you could argue, have the skill set to replace what he did, and that's what he thought of. But he was never too precious about me taking it over. But the idea of going into it further on down the line, because I did revisit my decision when I was at PwC, but I revisited for all the wrong reasons because I just wanted out. And again, that just further reinforced the idea. It was a case of, it's not an area for me. And it's particularly with the length of time and effort he went into it, I was always, and like I said, I'm a big supporter of family businesses out there. There's some tremendous ones out there, but I just didn't have that fire in my belly about engineering and forklifts. And if I couldn't give it 100%, I would have felt like I would have been doing him and I a disservice. And I just thought, I can't do that. So really, it wasn't necessarily just a family bit, although that was something which was a consideration. The fire in my belly wasn't there to give us enough of a oomph to kind of take that leap of faith.
We often talk on the podcast about the hedgehog concept, don't we? The kind of intersecting Venn diagram between what you're really passionate about, what you're really good at, and what the world is willing to compensate you well for. And it's really interesting you've identified there that passion just wasn't there, and you could become very good at that, running that business. I'm sure you're very familiar with the business. Financially, you understand, you've had your PwC training, you understand numbers, brilliant. That could be a very successful business, but it could be a business that you really grew to hate, which I'm sure your dad, that'd be the last thing he would want Graham J. Tennick Jr. to do.
You bugger, Graham J. Tennick Jr. You've slotted Junior in there already. It's funny, actually, on the numbers front. I'll tell you a bit of a crazy numbers story when I first did set up the business. So I'd went PwC, I went to council. So I was 2 weeks engaged. So for those that know Newcastle, Millennium Bridge, I got down on one knee, proposed to the now wife. She said yes, amazing. 2 weeks later, I thought, I'm going to hand in my notice and set up my own business. Now, at that stage there, bearing in mind I was on a good salary at the council, 2 weeks engaged, already kind of earmarking the wedding for 2 years beyond that, having expensive taste in cars, so I had finance on a car, house, everything else like that. Many would think it wasn't the best of times to have obviously thought about starting my own business. But just to be clear, it was a better time than before the proposal, because at least she'd already said yes. So there was method and the magic, all right? But I had, again, honest use that there was 18 months worth of planning that led into it. But yeah, there was a number of different things where I was weighing several things up at the time. But it was the start of something which went extremely well and something which I started making mistakes with. And it leads into some of the other bits which I know we're going to kind of touch upon. But the bit which went really well, I did at that point there utilize my best skill sets, use my contacts. What I did really badly, which I'm sure a lot of people at 1% Club can relate to, is my favourite job, aside from what I'm doing there now, was the very first business I was employed in, which was a small accountancy practice, not too dissimilar to ours in terms of size. So, thing I did right, use my contacts, picked a lot of work quickly, went from 5 clients to, I don't know how many clients, but very quickly, I replicated the earnings I needed. But the thing I did badly was I replicated the firm I'd left behind several years prior, whereas the profession had moved on. So whilst I managed to get away with it for about 24 to 36 months, storm clouds start brewing.
What does that look like when those clouds are brewing and you've... What point do you realise that you've gone down the wrong path? You've started making maybe the wrong inroads there?
The thing for me was when I first set up the business, it was just me. I cheated a little bit professionally because when I got busy, I got work experience people in to come and take the workload off my plate. Great opportunity, and I suggest everybody does it because ultimately you're helping the work experience person. You're not committing to a salary, and you're actually getting yourself ready to see whether you can actually take somebody on. I then took 2 individuals on, but I said, look, I cannot afford to pay you a significant amount of money, but if you take a chance with me, I promise I'll repay that back, and I did. And one of those individuals is still with me today. But I'd modelled as far as the wedding and a little bit beyond. I hadn't really modelled beyond then. So I started losing a little bit of control because all of a sudden I was starting to pay the higher wages. The profits are naturally starting to drop a little bit. And the progression based on cloud technology and just movements in the industry, if I keep it a little bit universal to every potential business owner listening to this podcast, movements in the industry, I'd take my eye off the ball a little bit. I'd almost become an employee. So I'd went the opposite way. Rather than being a business owner, things were going great. I'd started growing a bit complacent. And this was where all of a sudden off the back of that, it was a case of I need to react. But again, I didn't react how I should have reacted.
Okay, so how did you react?
I react because I'm an ambitious little bugger. I recognise the fact that, right, okay, margins are shrinking, the industry's moving. I need to invest. I need to invest in technology. I need to get on this cloud journey, and I want to be at the front. I don't want to be in the middle or at the back. I want to be at the front. So the term I've used quite commonly is I went and got software drunk. So I went to Xerocon, 2017, I think it was, which is like the Glastonbury for accountants. I've never been to Glastonbury, but I've watched the TV plenty. It's just nuts. And the excitement in the profession means if you see colour in a bar chart or a graph or something like that, you just fall in love. Don't tell the wife. All right. You commit to 50-odd licenses. You think, right, this is the new sort of work we're going to do. Clients are going to pay us so much more money. We're going to add so much more value. This is takeoff of, well, at the time it was Graham Tennant & Co. Chartered Certified Accountants rather than Tennant Accountants. But at that point there, it was takeoff of version 2 of our business. Brought it back. The team says, what the hell are you doing? I said, no, look, this is it. Literally, this
the
is
future.
the
I've seen it.
I've seen it. It's going to happen.
You've been to Glastonbury again, Graham. What have you been smoking?
Well, I was going to say clearly the wrong thing. I think I was still in a bit of a daze when I got back. But then it's one of these things where I'm a big believer of the statement, you win or you learn. You should never lose. And what I learned from that, I actually accelerated my learning curve. Maybe not the progression of the business, but accelerated my learning curve to 2020 when we'd actually got our backside into gear, won the 2020 UK Digital Accountant of the Year award. So all of a sudden there, I'd got my backside into gear, started understanding the psychology of business owners and the psychology with regards to software to truly engage on version 2. And then obviously COVID hits and then several other things after that change.
What's this COVID thing? I've not heard of this.
It might be another thing I don't know.
Group of accountants, welly boots, muddy field, bit of music, smoking. That's all I've got in my head so far. From
I hope the toilets
it's not
were
restricted
better.
to Glastonbury, just to be clear in terms of that. Okay, so let's segment Glastonbury fans. I don't want to kind of confuse people.
That's it. Can I fast forward like quite a bit from kind of the business that you were creating and the maybe the dead ends were down to where you are today, because the moment I can picture the exact moment that I said to myself, I need to get Graham on the podcast. I was on holiday in Spain over the summer, and I was walking along a golf course very early in the morning before it got stupidly hot. And I'm listening to podcasts as I go around. And I heard you, Graham, on another podcast, a rival podcast, because we're all rivals in the podcasting world. We hate each other. There's no one likes each other in the podcasting world. It's very, very infighting. Anyway, only kidding. I heard you on this podcast, and the line you used just literally, I stopped in my tracks. And regular listeners will know I like the app Brain Toss to just send myself ideas to my inbox. And I just, the line I sent myself was, I need to get Graham on the podcast, because he just said this one line that is just everything we're about. It's everything that my latest book, The False Exit, is all about. The line you used was, my business can run without me, but it still benefits greatly from me. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how your business could or is able to work without you now, but still benefits from having you?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the start a little bit, but then I'm going to accelerate back to actually answer your question. When I was studying, I wasn't the most naturally gifted person, insofar as I had to work my backside off to pass my exams. And I was always wrongly of the believer that you absolutely slog your guts out, give 100%, and as a minimum, you walk away with no excuses. Now, in time, I've refined my knowledge of that to say, if you give it your all, you go away with no excuses. But that doesn't mean you slog your guts out. I previously had taken that same attitude from my studies into the business side of things. So if I was finished something at 5 to 5, and I was going to go home at 5 o'clock, I'd pick something up and I'd be there till 7. Always did it. I would also always feel the need to be first in, last out.
Yeah.
I would also feel the need to be always in among the thick of it, in the trenches, doing all this sort of side of things, being the face of the business. And this is where you run the dangerous path of ego setting in, particularly with accountants, because, I mean, it's funny, I had an email last week off somebody, and again, she's not in accountancy, she's in property, and she said, well, accountants are like the traffic wardens, aren't they? And I was like, ooh, that's a new one. But that's probably the biggest compliment I've had when I've been kind of regarded as a person. I mean, it's a traffic wardens, I can maybe get away with that one. But as accountants, we're not always looked upon as being that favourably. But with the opportunity now and the sort of events like your Xerocon, your digital accountancy show, and all the other ones around that, it's an opportunity for accountants to be a lot more front-facing, a lot more visible. But then that also adds to the ego side of things inside a business with regards to clients who've always been seen to be the face of the business, to also the ego side outside the business, externally, to be seen to be the face of the business and everything else like that. And it does get your ego going, because all of a sudden it's like, I feel wanted inside the business. I feel wanted and known outside the business. This is really, really good. But with all of this comes a significant cost, not just in terms of time and money, but of what you're sacrificing by way of doing that. And this is the thing in terms of family team. I've got 2 young girls, Holly and Scarlett, 8 and 5 years old. My dad sacrificed a lot with regards to us as a family to give us the life which we were able to live. And I couldn't be more thankful for it. But the sacrifices made, and some things I refer back to, what one my mum keeps giving me stick now is the £5 A-team gun I never received. But it's the best gift I never received, to give me the grounding to have a value for money rather than just seeing things just dropped on my lap. But all these sort of things, I want to be a present parent. I want to be present for the team to support, but I don't need to always be seen. And there's a quote I've got downstairs. It's not about the impact you make when you're there. It's the impact you leave when you leave, the impact you've left when you've left the room. That's what it's all about. But I've been fortunate enough to assemble a team for which now I could not be more proud of. They actually encouraged me the back end of last year to say, get out of this business. You're too much the face of it, which I'd be encouraging for a little while. Get out of this business. You need to be less the face. Let us get on with this bit. You do that bit. And within a matter of about 6 weeks, we did it. Not fully, but we'd largely done it within 6 weeks. But that side of it enabled me to take a step back and say, you know what it is? I've done this thing consistently for a little while now. This is really going to amplify it. And I've never looked back since then now. And I absolutely love it. And even the team do. To the point where, yeah, I can go and sit in the trenches. That's absolutely fine. And I do. But I don't half delegate some stuff. But also the team are doing it. So I'm no longer a hypocrite. What I'm doing, I'm encouraging the team to do it. The team are doing it. Clients are doing it. And we've never been in a better position than what we are today. In every sense.
It is abandoning that almost small business owner catchphrase of only I can do this. If it's to be, it's up to me. I'm the only person who can be relied on to do this. You mentioned something just now, and it reminded me of a quote I used in the book. So I've literally just dug it out live. This is really good. Told you this was going to be the best podcast ever, didn't we? Chapter 5, The Right People in the False Sector. I start with a quote from Sheryl Sandberg, who says, leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. And that's everything you've just described there, Graham, isn't it? It's when you're giving your business the very best of you, and your business is benefiting tremendously from your presence. You're not there shuffling a few papers around and topping up the coffee pot. You're making a real difference in your business. And then when you're not there, your business doesn't go, well, I can't do that because only Graham has the logins for that. Only Graham can do that. No, Graham doesn't let anyone touch that. Don't touch it, whatever you do.
But you know what it is? The staff I've got are better than me. People ask us a question and go, I don't know. They'll ask us a tax question and go, I'll be honest, I'm not really sure about that one. Yeah. But I know somebody that does. Yeah. But this is the whole thing whereby you recruit people better than you.
Yeah.
And people have said there before about the name, saying, should you not have had a name which isn't your name? And again, I do respectfully accept where people come from with regards to it. But there is a little bit, again, history to the name insofar as I have a sister and I have 2 daughters. I would like the name and the impact to be long living beyond me. So but with the name, it's a way of working. It's a vision for which is the collaboration of the efforts of the whole team. It's not my vision.
Yeah.
It's a collective vision. We came together over several strategy days, over several different events. We agreed the impact we wanted to make, and we shared it with the world. It actually started in 2020, actually. I'm only going to mention the C word one more time, reference COVID. But in COVID, people were in a bit of a bad place and that. And I thought, you know what it is? I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to arrange a clients awards evening, and I'm going to do a cocktail making class online. But I'm going to do it in January. You know, that month when every accountant's doing tax returns, I'm going to do it in January. And I couldn't give a toss what other people think. I'm going to do it then. And you know what is the messages I received on LinkedIn and text messages afterwards? People could not have been more grateful us bringing that little bit of light to people's life. And I thought, this is amazing. So I then thought, right, 2021, we're going to do the same again. But I thought, how the heck do I better that? Then I was like, well, it's my 10th birthday as well. So I hired the tallest bar in Newcastle. It's the 360 Champagne Bar. And at that point there, I released to the world pretty much what we wanted to be about, which we'd talk about as a team. And that was our 360 vision about the impact we make internally, the impact we make externally with regard to clients, and the impact we make to the world. So that's our 360 impact with regards to our flywheel. And it's everywhere with regards to what we do. We've got a few flywheels in our business, insofar as we're segmenting that down to further flywheels. But it's all about that. So we've got impacts internally, we track. We've got impacts externally with clients, we track. We've got impacts with making the world a better place that we track. And by doing that, we've just kept building and growing every single aspect of that year upon year, just to improve it a little bit more, so that white paper, which was at the time just an 8-page Word document, which I'd scribbled some thoughts together during 2020, is come to fruition.
You mentioned you tracked those impacts, internal, external, and for the world. Can you just give us some examples of what exactly you're tracking on those 3?
Yeah, of course. So the first one is probably one of the easiest ones. For any business owner, you can pick almost kind of 3 financial metrics, which going to allow you to do what you want to do within the business. So also, so we just have top line, we have extra work orders in terms of extra things doing internally and new work taken on. So that's the ones we'll pick. That's the ones we're tracking. And it just allows something which is universally understood and universally impacted by everybody in the firm. Because I didn't want to have multiples of measures, which is just like, there's 18 measures. What do we do? Everybody can contribute towards every one of those measures. So it's a case of, right, okay, let's just stick with that. In terms of client ones, this is the one which is evolving quite a bit there now. We're trying to get clients to a point whereby they dictate what goals they want to hit. Then we're tracking to see what impact we make for them, which can vary client to client. But say, for example, a client says, you know what it is? I want to make sure I take 12 weeks holiday a year. Well, let's track it. A client might have a financial one, say, I want to achieve £1 million profit. Okay, well, let's track it. A client might want to take their kids to Lapland. Okay, right, well, let's track it in terms of this. So all of a sudden there, and behind me, as early as tomorrow morning, that's going to become a client impact board. So we're going to start having it on there. So clients are going to come in, they've got to write it on. Remember Blockbuster?
Oh, yeah. We're going to go run.
Well, listen, we're not going to go.
I'm not going to say, can I have a pee, please, Bob? No.
No, you can, but we'll have to pause it. I mean, it's going to ruin the recording. If you want something else, we've got a big problem. We're going to have like almost shaped like things like that. You can like put them on the wall, but handwritten in terms of the impact we're making for clients. So we're going to record those on the wall. So it's all about impacts which are important to clients, but there's various different aspects to it. But again, feel like we're making a difference to our clients. The impact with regards to the world is threefold, but it ties back to the other two areas. So the first one is proposals issued. So for every proposal issued, we contribute towards providing housing in the Philippines. So our goal is to provide 1 year's worth of housing to people in the Philippines. Our second one is proposals accepted. So with every proposal accepted, we give 5 books to children in emergency care in the UK, and we contribute towards providing education to orphans in the Ukraine.
Fantastic.
Our third impact is off the back of tax returns. So we get 90% of tax returns done by the 30th of November, and we're looking pretty damn good. We're going to give some money to Cash for Kids, where kids are unlikely to get presents for Christmas. If we get all of the tax returns done by the end of December, we make a further contribution in January to feeding families, so those families where they're struggling post-Christmas to put food on the table. And again, all of that was agreed internally with the team, whereby they were proposing the sort of things which were important, which they want to contribute to, and for which we can link it. So there's a clear linkage between all of them. So obviously, business does better, clients do better, the world does better. And a lot of that's automated as well. So again, there's people say, that must be a lot of work. Well, no, the software we use automatically has a trigger to B1, G1, which we're part of. So that automatically creates the contribution. All I've got to do is on the basket and basically tick, done.
Love it. Yeah, I've come across B1, G1 probably, almost 10 years ago now. I think it was originally someone was doing, it was why they plant a tree for, every product they sold or every membership they sold, they would install a new well in the village or something like that. But it was very, very simple and easy to track. What I love there, Graham, is you've identified almost, and I think I talk in the false exit about, as small business owners, you create this little world the way you want it to be. And what you've done here is you've consciously thought about, I would say, your environment, your initial close environment, the internal targets and hopes and dreams and the impact you want to have there, the external with what your clients want to achieve, and then expanding out from there to, okay, how can we make the world a better place? Now, I remember listening to, I think it was Barry Hearn said that, it's great having these ambitions. I want to save the world. I want to save the planet. He said, but there's a hierarchy to this, and it's got to start with you. So I've got to look after myself first, fit your own oxygen mask first. Then I look after my family. Then I look after my neighbors. Then I look after my community, my region, my country, my continent, then the planet. He said, and you've got to spread out from there because, you have to start with what you can control. And if you can't pay the bills, you aren't going to save any orphan children, or you're not going to feed any hungry children or provide presents or anything, because you've got to look after yourself first.
And a total unprompted plug here. And I'm sure you can ask the question, but I'm going to save you asking it a little bit later on down the line. this is where, for me, I couldn't be more thankful for the 1% Club. Because for me, we live in such a busy world now. We are, I mean, the saying goes, I might slightly kind of get it slightly wrong in terms of the actual phrase, but you'll get the essence of it. We are swamped by information, but starved of knowledge. Trying to control the pace at which we are moving. You might be unhappy with something, but then to fix it, before you know it, you're going 100 miles an hour, doing so many different things, being targeted, strong check word, but let's go targeted by loads of things across social media, books, videos, opinions, and you just lose that sense of control. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, what the heck's happened? And that's kind of where I was. But with like literally what you said, the segment of the bits between there was where, when I was first introduced to 1% Club by Gareth Burton, who was also a 1%er, when he first introduced me to it, it was the stepping stone of filling that gap, because I had the lofty goals here, maybe not pulled together as well as what they have been there now. I had where I was. I kind of broadly knew what I needed to get there with bits missing, but I hadn't necessarily stacked it up. And because of my personality traits, I am excitable. I do like, and most of us are, you do want, not always that new shiny thing, but you want something to really kind of get into, right, yes, this, that, and the other. But then the idea of 1%, I was like, can I not do 50? Because 50 really kind of does it. But then when you broke it down and started educating yourself in a different way of working, and again, actually, I've read your books, as you know I have. And when you educate yourself in a different sort of way, it's like, even in the book, it's amazing how there's loads of knowledge and expertise and tips and everything. But you don't have to do it all at once. Like, just literally segment it.
And you could write a book and then, like, years later, realize you haven't done a bit of that book, and then ask people to review your podcast, you know.
And the book which made the biggest impact, I did notice that, by the way. So I was trying to kind of gloss over it just so I didn't. I'll take the mic after I've stopped recording. All right. But the biggest impact I first had via a book of yours was the World Domination book. The first, not the biggest, the first was the World Domination book, and it changed my approach to business to the point where
going through a 90-day plan, or was that starting with the could-do list?
No, it was more so the 90-day plan. The 90-day plan, doing that bit, then segmenting week, days, reflection, everything else like that, took me back to a place I'd actually started accidentally, but not in that same way, but I'd totally lost my way with, to the point now where I do that every single day, every single week, without fail.
Are you ready?
Love it.
Are you ready, Jace?
I'm ready, but it won't work.
That's a good routine to have.
Didn't work. You need to go ding when you do that now, because
there we go.
Zoom has got so good it just cuts out the noise when you do it, which is like really rubbish. But hey, never mind. That's one of the things I really wanted to talk about, actually, Graham, because you've been with us for 18 months now, and I think I've probably seen you 6 times that, probably once a quarter, just to check in with how your 90-day plan's gone and what you're planning to do for the next quarter. And that's probably all I kind of see. We don't see you in the group. We don't see you coming to coaching calls. I don't see you weekly on my one-to-ones. We don't really see you in the Facebook group, apart from when you've got awards you want to show off. But yeah, we don't really see an awful lot of you. And for kind of people listening, really, it's just really interesting, because all of our 1%ers get different things out of the 1% Club, and obviously we've made a good impact on your business, and you've moved forward, significantly in that 18 months, which is great. But actually, without actually being engaged with anything that we kind of got going on, which I think is remarkable to both yourself and to kind of the program that we've got together, really, I guess. So there's something that you can follow in your own time, in your own way, and make it work for you. So so I'm really pleased to kind of hear that, really, and it's really great that you come on a podcast as well to talk about it.
It's funny though, because I might well be the best worst 1%er in a weird sort of way, because I remember chatting to you about this a little while ago, and I take 1% of the 1% Club, and it does me just fine. But that 1% has added over 100% in terms of impact to where I actually was. But the way you guys do it, the way the 1% structure, the way the 1% Club is structured, is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And for me personally, because I don't want to kind of put words into other people's mouths, the book was amazing, but the overall structure and environment which you provide to support business owners to go and flourish was exactly what I needed. And when I've needed support, it's been there. I've spoken to you on a couple of occasions, Jason, in terms of going through things at the very start, and I've spoken to you since and other things. And the advice you gave me was brilliant. And it was all I needed. I didn't want to... I've been in the position there before where you get regular tips and regular advice, and it's always brilliant advice and tips and that, but it just becomes too much. So again, it's trying to kind of structure that in such a way, and that was what I needed. I've spoken to John on a couple of occasions, like when we're doing off the back of the Zero Awards, and again, I know we're bouncing messages back and forth with regards to the airport advert we're doing, and just knowing I've got that support there is amazing. Some of the other guys in the club, I say Gareth Burton in particular, I say the amount of time I spend with him and Paul Miller, just going through things, it just helps keep us on the straight and narrow. But what I do is I dip in where I need to dip into. But a lot of the knowledge and expertise and help I've had has been directly through yourselves or in things you've either provided or written. So obviously I've got John's latest book, which is going to form part of plans we have for Q1/Q2 of next year. The Evergreen Assets, absolutely amazing in terms of that. But the old me would have read that book, probably not taken any notes on it. Then we'll at the next book and the next book and the next book. What I actually do there now is I read a book. I take notes as I'm going through the book. I save all those notes on our internal system. I always have actions off the back of every single book. And every week I'm looking to chip away at those actions and share those notes. So every book makes an impact in my business. And it's all these little bits chipping away and just sharpening the axe.
Oh, that's good. One of the things, interesting thing from what you just said was that you're the worst 1%, the best 1%.
Best worst 1%.
Yeah.
That's worse. And to be honest with you, and I think, and I know our doors are about to close, or will have closed by the time this episode comes out, but we'll be open again in March, is that actually the worst 1%ers are the ones that want 100% of what's going on and want to be involved in everything and look at all the video and jump in and both feet first and want to absorb all that, because they just don't. They just can't. They're overwhelmed. It gets a bit of a nightmare, and it's so hard to kind of slow people down. I mean, we've made lots of 1% improvements in the 1% Club in order to get people onboarded better, even from when you joined us in March of last year. Just slowing things down, so actually you haven't got this overwhelm, which is also possible because there's just so much content in there. There's so many ideas, there's so many coaching calls and things which give you plant seeds all day long if you just sit there and watch them. But actually, unless you tend to those seeds and you grow them the right ones, you're not going to flourish. So that's really important. Now I'm going to ask the last question, but I'm just looking across to John to see if he had one more beforehand.
Nope, all good.
Because it ties in really nicely with you've created this ambitious lifestyle business. Really, now you've put in those things. You've got a fantastic team, and I love those visions, values. I love the way that you've got a group of people who are better than you and actually follow exactly where you want to go. And I think that's great. But ambitious lifestyle business, what does that mean for you?
First thing, just a general comment for everybody. This is always relative, and I think a lesson I learned a little while ago is be the best version of you. Don't compare yourself against us. Be the best version of you. There's always going to be something that's going to be better than you, always going to be something that's worse than you, but it's all relative and it's how you perceive things, but be the best version of you. Now, in terms of my ambitious lifestyle business, I segment this, and I think it's the easiest way to do it. Otherwise, it just becomes like an impossible dream. So my dream position, 12 months from now, and nothing's getting in my way because this is the one thing I'm focused on, is I'm going to be taking the kids and the wife to, let's get this right, Disney World, Florida. I keep saying Disneyland, Disney World, Florida. That's what will make me feel like I have got the business I want in 12 months' time. Now, I am 41 years old. I know I don't look it. I'll stop you jumping in terms of saying anything different there. Just hold back with comments. It's fine. It's fine. No, honestly, you don't need to say anything. It's fine. My goal was, and I had this goal from day one, by the way, as well, so this hasn't changed, is I want to be at the age of 55 in a position where I more than likely won't, because what I do is a hobby, I can have the financial freedom to entirely step away from this business and do what the heck I want. I mean, what the heck I want relatively. So again, I haven't necessarily defined that in terms of, like you said, I'm going to buy a holiday home here, there, and that. I'm not a massively material person. I like my cars, but as you can see from what I'm wearing, I'm not really kind of designer clothing. I mean, this is Primani's finest, I believe. I've only got shorts on underneath, but I couldn't really show you them. Just kidding. But no, that is my goal. At the age of 55, so I've got 14 years to have the financial freedom to do what I want when I want. But I am starting to I'm starting to live that life now. I started putting the wheels in motion from day one. I'm starting to live that life now. So this summer, I had the best part of 3 weeks off, all in one fell swoop. Didn't bite an eyelid. It was lovely. Last year, I got quite a few holidays in, if I'm being brutally honest, to the point where I thought, I better have a weekend work.
Jason, inflate the flamingo.
Yep.
No, but I'd seen a note of that the other day, and I was like, I fancy that flamingo. Maybe a few years' time. But why not enjoy the journey? Why not live the life before it's too late?
Yeah.
So you know what it is? No, I'm going to enjoy it as I go along. Tonight, I'll be going to pick up my eldest from gymnastics. I take the kids to school on a Tuesday morning. I take my eldest to football on a Thursday. I am starting to already live and love the life I've got there now, and I'm not hanging around. If I can do it, I'm going to do it. And I'll make the sacrifices I need to while sticking with it and our main vision for the impact we're trying to make in the wider world. So again, going back to a point I made previously, I don't want to have my kids not appreciating things the way I appreciate things, giving them everything they want when they want. That's not what life's about. I want to give them the foundation and the memories, because you can't put money on memories, which they will treasure and take generations forward.
Love it. Thank you very much, Graham, for joining us on this episode of the podcast.
Thank you, Roach. And don't forget, 5 stars. 5 stars, all right? Anything less than 5 stars, my name is not Graham Tennick, and this is I'm not from Newcastle.
Yeah, and just in the comments, just put the episode with Graham was the best one I've ever heard. Today's episode, I'm going to go all Sesame Street on you. Today's episode has been brought to you by the word impact. If you've been an astute listener, you will have heard the word impact probably a dozen times. Scattered throughout this interview. It started in the introduction when I introduced Graham as the Chief Impact Officer at Tennick Accountants. Now, the fact that we haven't directly looked at impact today, and yet it's been mentioned at least a dozen times throughout the conversation, shows you that Graham is living and breathing these values. Again, going back to the false exit, vision and values, top of the hierarchy, and you don't paint them on the walls, you live and breathe them. Graham, you are absolutely doing that. Everything you've talked about from the very start today to the very end has been about the impact you have, both for your business, for your internal employees, for the team, for the clients they work with, and the world at large. And I think for any small business owner listening to this, all you want to do is have an impact on your world or the world. And I think, Graham, you've given us a little bit of an insight into how we can just nudge a little bit closer to that each and every day.
Thank you for having us again. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening, everybody.
See you next month. 5 stars.
Bye.
5 stars.
Bye.
So there we are, another episode in the can. How was it for you? Please let us know. However you listen to these podcasts, please leave a review on that platform. Let us know what we can do better, what you like, what you don't like, and how we can improve to make this show even better for you. We'll see you next time.